welcome back to my channel. It's Christian here, and we're about to get into a little bit more of my 2 cents. All right, so this topic is one that definitely hits home for me because I have witnessed people fight for titles and power and position in church my entire childhood and young adult life. And I got to tell you guys, it gets real, all right, when people want to be ordained and want to be called so bad, all right? It's a lot of people in church with their phones not on Do Not Disturb because they're trying to get that call. Okay, all right, okay. But before we get into the topic for today, got to do housekeeping and make sure that me and Harafe here let you know the 3 points of dialogue. Well, the 3 points that you have to remember while we have these conversations. Number 1, you are not alone. Number 2, you are not crazy. And number 3, my ultimate favorite of them all, God still loves you. All right. So now that my co-host is done here, little Vanna Gold, not Vanna White, but Vanna Gold, we're going to go ahead and move her raw face to the side. I am going to enjoy this topic for multiple reasons because there have been so many new titles and names created in church, especially the Black church. And I'm now at the point where I'm like, y'all are out here making up names like Jurassic Park is out here making up dinosaurs. And you can do what you want to do with that information. Just make sure your kids aren't around to hear me give them that little revelation. Bars. Okay. So, yeah, like the names are being made up, you guys. Like the positions in the titles are man-made. And they're also man-serving. They're also self-elevating. And if you believe them, receive them, accept them, and respect them, you are then required to come subject under them. The titles in church do not affect people who are outside of church. The titles in church only work in church. When you leave, you're your regular name that's on your birth certificate. Sorry to disappoint you. And just like you can change your name in the real world legally, people just come into the church world and give themselves new names. And it's okay. They're respected based off the hierarchy. And we're going to now go over a list of names that have been, that are like the popular names, kind of like the historical names that have been in church, in the positions and the titles. And then we'll just go from there with the new age names and titles that have been created. And I don't even know what they are, but we'll go over some of those. All right. So first you have a priest, you have deacons, pastor, bishop, chaplain, archbishop, archdeacon, monsignor, patriarch, archpriest, dean, clergy, rector, archmandrate, youth ministry, abbess, abbat, suffragan bishop, metropolitan, worship leader, apostolic prefect, apostolic visitor, assistant at the pontifical throne, and territorial abbey. Okay. All right, come through with the names. And then you also have a hierarchy of the Catholic Church, and you know, it's a lot that goes into the leadership and the titles in church. And I don't know how the titles are handed out in different religious organizations. The most common titles that I've heard growing up was deacon, pastor, bishop. Let me see. Clergy, when I went to Catholic school. So we heard clergymen, we heard of nuns, we heard of priests, altar boys, things like that. Now, let me just say that in the Black church, nowadays you have archbishop, you have overseer, you have chief apostle, you have chief prophetess, you have not select, but you have the name when people are like getting ready to be somebody, but they not them though, like pre-elect or like elect bishop or something like that, or elect prophetess. Let me tell you guys something. You guys are making up names, and it's really starting to upset me and my homegirls. because I don't even know who any of you all are anymore and what's respectful or not to call you based off of this title that you guys are all giving yourselves and each other. So let me just start by saying that a lot of these titles and names really do just come from what I think is a new church culture and a new movement in church that allow people to really just have their own identity and to really put themselves in positions of power and to exalt themselves above your everyday parishioner. And it's not even really a calling. It's not even really a position that actually holds any weight in the kingdom, but it holds weight with you. And you have to understand that it's the same way when people give themselves expert titles and, make themselves out to be these gurus of whatever sort. You just need a few results or none, because you can make up reviews too. You only need few results in order to start elevating yourself to a certain level. It's branding. If you really want to, at the end of the day, it's all branding. That's how you have Steve Harvey to go from a comedian to a now well-known commentator, media personality, a host, a relationship expert, all of this. That's how you got Kevin Samuels to go from being an image consultant to now the landscape and the widespread voice on what all men want in the world, right? No. But you can do that to yourself. You can give yourself that title in that position, and other people will believe it as long as you are truly confident in it. It's the same way with church titles, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Because now you have people who honestly want to believe in something and someone coming in and believing in you and whatever title you've chosen for yourself. And there's nobody to call you on it. So I'm going to get into my points quite briefly because I don't think it's a lot to dwell on here. It's just a lot of common sense to discuss. Number one, who came up with these names? Who came up with the chief apostle, with the chief prophet, with the bishop elect, with so we have apostle, we do have overseer. Like I said, I don't know what an overseer is. I feel like these are titles that are just made up for people who have other ministries under them, possibly. There's never any real explanation or expectation set, but you don't need those when you're just talking to people who seem to mindlessly check their brains at the door and just accept whatever you're calling yourself today. I cannot call myself a car because I'm standing in a garage. You cannot do that. Even if you tell people that repeatedly, they're going to be like, no, baby girl, you're a whole human. Okay? Stay in the garage though if you want to, but you're not a car. I can't get in you and drive you. Nobody can do that to a pastor or a leader. Nobody can tell them they're not a bishop, they're not an apostle, they're not an overseer, they're not a chief of whatever they're talking about. None of that can happen. They give these things to themselves because God is not dropping down here and giving envelopes to people with the name on the inside like this is for you. That's not what's happening. So who comes up with these names? That's what I would like to know. This is what you guys should be asking because right now I am confusion. Next, when you give yourself these titles or you're given these titles, the danger here is people start operating in this and not in who they actually are. And I say that from the standpoint, my husband and I were literally just talking about it the other weekend where I was saying growing up, and even now I still do this. I still call people that I went to church with brother this and sister that. And I don't even go to church with them anymore. I don't even know them on a personal level or have a relationship with them, but I still reference them as some form of respect as brother this, sister that. Because that's how we were taught to address our fellow church members. But do you understand that when brother this or sister that or is at work or at home or at wherever, they're just whatever their first name is? And when they're at church with you, then it becomes disrespectful to not regard them by that terminology. It's not wrong to call people by their name. Why can't people just be called by their name? Why is that wrong to not put pastor in front of it? Why is it wrong to not call someone bishop such and such? If I knew you as Ron and you go off and you get ordained, I am not sorry. I am not going to be calling you Pastor Ron. I'm not. Not if I went to high school with you and you were just Ron in high school. You do not become Pastor Ron to me because you're not my pastor. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you operate in that gift or that ministry, or that, what do they call it? That position, that I have to call you that. I don't operate in that position with you. Like, I don't go to church with you, and I'm not going to call you that. That's just me. There are people, I've used this example before, that's in Walmart that are doctors, who are doctors. You don't know that. You don't call them Dr. So-and-so. You just call them whatever their name is on their ID, whatever name they may write down on a piece of paper. And it's not disrespectful to them. It's okay to just be who you are. The danger of titles in church is that it keeps people from actually having to operate in who they are as an individual. It gives a self-inflated position and power over other people that they feel like is beneath them. You can't talk to pastor like that. You can't, I'm an apostle. Okay, that's fine. Were you at the Last Supper? No, you ain't one of the 12. So are you number 52? Either way, I don't have to address you as such. And you shouldn't be offended when people don't. So that's the part for me that blows my mind about you don't know who you are. People really start giving up their own personality to become and embody this hot up, somewhat arrogant individual because of their title, especially if they're a prophet. Oh my goodness. You better not miss that part. Pastor just ain't good for some people nowadays. They have to be something else. It has to be a lot going on there before they just put their name on a flyer. It's not just going to be pastor no more. They like to go above and beyond now with these titles. So I talked about it. You exalt yourself above others. That is one of the dangers for me, because what that does is it causes separation really for reality and possibility. So when you have a title in church, you usually don't want to listen to anybody else, right? Nobody can correct you. Nobody can talk to you out of turn, right? Nobody can just, pose suggestions or give feedback because you're in this high position. You are the overseer. You're the pastor. You're the leader. You're the man and the woman of God. Nobody wants to say anything to you and be guilty of touching God's anointed, or coming against the man or the woman of God, or putting their mouth on God's people. That is such a way to control and manipulate people. I can't even tell you how sick and tired I would get whenever I would want to talk about something that a pastor had done, and people would be like, girl, just pray about that. You don't want to be, don't say nothing about them. You don't want to put your mouth on a man of God. What are you talking about? Putting my mouth on who? Okay, that sounds very provocative. Putting your mouth on? Like, I'm just saying what this person did. I'm saying what Daryl did, right? I'm not saying that pastor whatever, right? This is a human that had a misstep, made a misjudgment, right? Did something that was wrong, and people don't want you to touch it or talk about it. That's where the stuff becomes idolatry. When you can't say anything about a person. Some people literally want titles so that they're above, right? So they're above reproach, so that nothing that they say or do can be called by you, because you're not on their level. They'll only accept rebuke or correction from someone on their level. But let me tell you how I operate, okay? Let me tell you how me, evangelist such and such, I'm evangelist 2 cents. So how evangelist 2 cents operate is, if you do wrong, I'm telling you. If you're out of order, you about to learn today. If I see you do it, you getting called on it. I don't give people the opportunity to elevate themselves over me, and none of us should. We shouldn't even require that from our children, to be honest. There should be respect of authority, right? But there should also be freedom to express yourself when you don't like how you're being treated. What title in church and power and position in church usually does is keeps people from accountability. If they have a title of evangelist, pastor, overseer, bishop, apostle, or whatever, nobody can touch them. That's idolatry. Only God can correct them. Well, clearly God is not speaking clearly enough, because they're still doing these things. So God just ain't gonna say nothing to them. What if I was sent as a vessel in a voice to actually be the one to say something to you, because everybody else in the past didn't? There has to be some course correction here. And when you have a title, there's none. Nobody says anything to the man and woman of God. They're just allowed to do it because of who they are, the titles that usually they give themselves or their peers give them. I really can't stand to see that when another leader comes down to an appreciation service or church anniversary and then, blesses the man of God in your church to now become some other level in the church. It's like, can't you just still be the regular ordained pastor you were? Like, why do you need to get an upgrade? Because now that just makes them boast in that title more because they've been officially donned this by another pastor, bishop, or whatever. It's a mess. All right, next up, the danger. You stop seeing the human and start excusing the behavior based on title and position. Just talked about it. Literally, this is what happens. You start saying to yourself, oh, I can't say anything to them because they're this. I shouldn't be thinking what I'm thinking about them because that's going to send me to hell, going against the man or the woman of God. God is anointed and called them, right? Not so. What you do is you actually transfer power from what you are actually able to do for yourself, to see with your own eyes. You take that power from yourself and hand it over to them for you to now turn a blind eye to what they're doing, which allows people to perpetuate hurtful actions on people who genuinely just want to serve the Lord. You make yourself more of a victim by ignoring wrongdoing. The way people talk to you, the way people treat you, the way that they isolate you if you don't give enough, if you don't look a certain way, if you don't worship the way that they want you to, if you're not always available, that opens you up to be abused, to be hurt, because you're putting your faith in all of who you are into who they say they are. But they're not treating you like this. I don't feel like any good leader should be isolating people, abandoning folks, making people feel as if though they're not good enough, pressuring them to give or to do according to what they would like it to be done. That's not fair. But you've relinquished your rights to say something because you're honoring the man or the woman of God so that you don't go to hell. They're banking on you saying that. They're banking on you feeling that way and being afraid. They're banking on your fear to never correct them. They're banking on your fear to never hold them accountable. Don't continue to be a pawn in the game where you always lose. You will never be in a winning position when you're talking about people who need a title. When that title is stripped of them, they do not know what to do. When they're not in a position where people are upholding them, some of them actually shrink in personality when they're not in church. When you see some of these leaders and these pastors in other places, they don't know how to talk to people. They can't hold really good conversation. They're not social. They're not respectful because they're not in their bubble. Some people only have power when they are at church. When they leave church, test it and see if I'm lying. I am telling you, nobody else pays attention to people when they're not in church. I don't pay attention to people and be like, oh, that's a pastor right there. I don't care. I don't notice because I'm in my own world being a human. You all give these positions you all allow these people to exert their position over you and make you feel like you're lower than them. And that's where it's dangerous because you take that mindset out into the world. You feel like everything about you has to shrink to exist in other people's spaces. And it makes you a walking doormat for mistreatment, for unfair, unjust behavior to be perpetrated against you. You're actually breaking down your own will the more that you build other people up above you. Because these leaders are not going to affirm you in who you are. They want to be continuously fed in their ego format to be elevated above you. But a lot of them are suffering from not fitting in, right? Not being chose, not being called, not being allowed, not being liked. And they can find that in you if they get them a good title. All right. Next up, you convince yourself that he or she aren't capable of doing certain things because of their title. Already talked about it. I be getting to my points before I even get to the notes, y'all. I mean, because this is genuinely how I feel. You do not have to relinquish your rights to your own life and your own choices of what makes you feel good. Don't cut off your connection to your emotions, to your discernment, and to your intuition. That's all I'm going to say. Don't get caught up in titles. It happened to me when we were in the church that we were in faithfully and super committed. The pastor did not like me, y'all. He didn't. He loved my husband. All right. He didn't like me because I wasn't going. I could see the wrong. And I would call it. And I'm gonna give y'all multiple experiences, right? Where some people may be like, girl, you just troubled, right? You like to cause trouble. No, I don't. I've always fought for my freedom. I've never allowed anyone to take control of me as a person or my mind. You cannot tell me what to do, especially if you're doing wrong. Now, if you're doing right, not a problem. But if you're doing wrong, you do not get to tell me to do wrong because you're in leadership. That's not how this works. And even as a child, I would get sent to the office because I would tell teachers no. Like, I'm not going to get isolated and in trouble when everybody else was doing wrong too. We all should be on timeout or whatever. Don't just single me out. I would speak up for myself. So Christian got labeled insubordinate as a child. Not a problem. I don't care. I get to keep my voice though. Next step, high school, I'm in a cheerleading team. And we had this little mishap happen where our coach literally walked off on us during a competition. We were at cheerleading camp. I was in high school. All of my friends on the cheerleading team, we go out of town. My mom's single mom came up with like, I think $800 or $1,000 to send me to this cheerleading camp. My mom didn't have $1,000 extra just laying around to send me to cheerleading camp, but she made it happen, okay? So grateful for that sacrifice. We get to cheerleading camp. Our coach is treating us like trash, y'all. She's mad at us because we're not getting certain awards. We're not getting certain ribbons. We're not performing the way she thinks we should. We're coming in third place, whatever. So she walks off on us. Like, she literally leaves us in the gym while all these other cheerleading groups and teams have their coaches with them, supporting them, cheering them on. She got so mad at us, she just left us and did not come back. And we're sitting there as kids, embarrassed, like hurt, confused. So we all get together in our room. All the girls were talking how when we go to our meeting at the end of the night that we had, we were going to all talk to her and tell her how it made us feel it was wrong. We didn't like that. Like, it made us feel bad. We're only doing the best that we know how to do, right? Like, this is why we're here to get better. It's cheerleading camp. It's not the pros, ma'am. Tell me why we get in this meeting in this room with this coach who's like a 40-something-year-old woman, and we're like 16, 15. We go around the room. All of my friends who said they were going to say something to her said nothing. All of them went around their room when we had to do our little recap of how the day went and what we thought we could improve on and do better. All of them said nothing. I don't think we need to work on nothing. Everything is good. I've been having fun. It's cool. I did notice they were doing this. Maybe we could do this. When it got to me, baby girl was like, I'm baby girl. It really hurt our feelings when you walked off and you left us today when we were doing our review cheer. Like, the cheer that we learned all throughout the day, we had to come together at the end of the day in the gym to all perform it and then get judged on it. So I was like, when it came to our end of the day review cheer, you left us when we got our blue ribbon, and that really hurt our feelings. Like, we all were very bothered by you leaving and how you stormed off. Like, the woman made a scene when she stormed off. She grabbed her purse off the bleachers. She really was mad. It was almost like she was living vicariously through us, but that's neither here nor there. So I was the only one that spoke up. After that day at that cheer camp, the next 3 days was hell for me. I was isolated. I got in trouble. I ended up coming back to school and getting put off the cheerleading team. And all of my friends knew why. None of them stood up for me. None of them vouched for me. None of them tried to come to my defense and say Christian wasn't the only one that felt like that. We did too. It was wrong. She did do this. The teacher was mad because she got called on her behavior. She was embarrassed that a child could see through her insecurities, through her issues. And so I got the title early of being someone that was disagreeable because I didn't let authority do what they wanted to do to me. And then even in young adulthood in church, it was the same way. Our pastor didn't like that he couldn't say what he wanted to say to me, treat me how he wanted to treat me, make sly remarks and comments about me or anybody else. I would call him on it like, no, you shouldn't be saying that. Are you sure they would want us to know such and such? Right? Like, you're isolating us from them to share their business with us. Do you think that's good? Or calling a meeting like, I don't like the way you handled X, Y, and Z. I would have preferred you do such and such because this is what this person did. Like, this isn't something that should be ignored. You shouldn't just be sweeping this under the rug. He didn't like that. So I was the one that was targeted. I was the object of his anger and his ignoring. He would ignore me at church. He would talk to my husband, be nice with him, but when he would see me, he walked by. That kind of stuff is manipulation and control. But title allows people to get away with things as long as those under them never correct them. You have just as much power as the person at the top. The person at the top only has power because of you. I'm not going to even get to my next points. The person at the top only has power because of you. The moment you stop following them, the moment you choose to follow or go somewhere else or just take away your loyalty, that person ceases to have power. You can't control nothing. Come on, somebody. I'm preaching better than y'all saying amen. You can't lead no one, right? You're not a leader if no one's following you. So all of these titles are dangerous because what it does is it allows them to exalt themselves over people who really don't need them. They don't need them. The person needs the title. Because if you didn't care about the title, you would denounce it. You'd be like, don't call me that. You ain't got to put none of that in front of my name before you introduce me. Just bring me up as the keynote speaker, right? But no, people want this long, drawn out list of accolades and titles and honorary doctorates and all of this stuff because it's self-serving. It self-inflates and it keeps them from ever being held accountable. Pastor would never do that. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. And he does. He struggles with that. But you wouldn't call it for what it is because he's the man of God. And you don't want to be putting your mouth on him. Whatevs. Next point, you take away your power to choose who influences you. Yes. Yes, indeed you do. When you give people title and you allow people to have position, you take away your power to choose how much influence they have in your life. You now are under whatever they tell you. You're gonna be exposed to whatever treatment that they want to give you that day, that week, that month. That's you. Those titles only matter in church settings. Said it before, and I'm not gonna go over it again. I hope this video opens your eyes to a lot and it lets you just take accountability for how you've been allowing people to exalt themselves over you in life, in church, at work, in school, in your home, in your relationships, in your family. Nobody has power unless you give it to them. Nobody. Beyonce isn't who she is today without her fans. Now, don't play with me, right? Nothing matters. Nobody has power, position, or platform unless you give it to them. I don't even have a YouTube channel. Well, I can have a YouTube channel, but I wouldn't have anybody to watch my videos if it weren't for you giving me views. I respect that. I appreciate that. I keep that in my mind, right? I wouldn't keep making videos if nobody was watching it. I promise you. I enjoy having these discussions, but I also talk about this with my sister and my husband. So I don't have to do these videos, but I want to because I enjoy talking and discussing them with you. You guys give me the power to make these videos. That's like, period. My customers give me the power to have a business. I don't have a business or a brand or a company if people don't buy from me and support me. Your pastor, your leader, the apostle, the bishop, the evangelist, the prophetess don't have any power if you don't believe in them. Now, do with that information what you want, but I'm just saying, keep all of these things in consideration. When people treat you bad, you can unplug. You do not have to be plugged into their source. If it's no longer empowering you, you can unplug from it. Take your power back, right? And that's what some of these people need to start realizing. I don't have to tap into you for power. I'm actually giving you my power. That's the only thing, like when when you see commercials, powered by the person that gave them money to advertise. Powered by the person that gave them the money to put on the photo shoot or to do the movie or to, come up with the product or to do the partnership. Powered by somebody else. I'm telling you, it's not so much a scripture as it is logic. Stop checking your mind at the door. Take your power back. You're free to make choices and you can choose something different. You can choose someone else to influence you or to have impact in your life. You are not going to hell because you decide to call people out on the bull that they are doing or the titles that they're creating. These things are man-made and self-serving. The end. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I cannot wait to bring more of my 2 cents to the table because it's just going to keep getting gooder and gooder. That's not a word, but we can say what we want over here, okay? They making up titles. We can use words that don't exist. So if you've enjoyed the video, drop down in the comments. Let's have a discussion. What do you think about these titles? What is the most outlandish title you've heard? What kind of power have you given to someone else? Or are you ready to get your power back? Let's talk about all of that in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you do not miss when I upload new content, which is every day at 12 noon for a limited time only. Can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Take care and make sure you come back for more of my 2 cents. Bye.